Here we are, at the end of diagnosis grad school. It's time to make my prognosis. The Oxford English Dictionary defines prognosis as a prediction or a forecast, especially of the future course of events based on present observation. And, in a medical sense, prognosis is a prediction of the probable course and outcome of a disease, or of an individual case of disease, the course or outcome itself. Let's start with present observations. Gather the available evidence and facts. I've completed the required coursework, passed my comprehensive exams, and handed in my prospectus, a chapter-by-chapter outline of my dissertation. I haven't TA'd like most of my grad cohort, and I've barely set foot on campus for the 3 years I've been in the program. But today, I am on campus. I'm here to meet my friend Kyla. Kyla did her MFA here several years ago. Now, she's returned to university to finish some prerequisite courses for a master's program in occupational therapy. It's her first time back after post-concussion syndrome. I arrive a little early and wait on a bench for Kyla. It's a beautiful sunny day. Students rush past me, walking to their next class. Some geese fly overhead. Kyla appears and we spend some time catching up. Then, she reads me an old poem she wrote about the first year of her brain injury.
In exile, I draw the tower card. This poem's epigraph is by Jane Kenyon. Spruce, inadequate, and alien, I stood at the side of the road. It was the only life I had. When I injured my brain, it was barely spring. Now it is mid-October, and getting up at 11 is a big accomplishment. Last month, I counted the 500 extra hours I've spent sleeping in this new state where sunlight augurs pain. I lose simple thoughts before I can finish them, and feel lonely without my mind. I'm always asking whoever I'm talking to, what was I saying? When everyone went back to school, I stayed home, stopped having goals, stopped dreaming of putting my body in a body of water. I tried to edit what I wrote and was bad at it, the kind of bad trying harder can't fix. I felt useless and alive. I watched the doctor-type prognosis unknown and let hope ghost me. Remind me where the soul lives, how to tell body from mind. Ups and downs, I say, when asked if I'm recovering. In crowds, I get dizzy and sweat from the noise and movement of bodies around me. I'm a woman who holds her head slightly off-center, always comes alone, is relearning most things. Where to begin?
To become disabled or ill requires relearning most things. How to do that thing you used to easily be able to do before illness. How to handle that morning commute to school. Read lengthy research papers with crushing brain fog. Cook a meal for yourself after a long day of thinking and writing. Then, once you relearn these things, it's time to strike out into this new, unfamiliar world as a sick or disabled person. Where to begin? I returned to academia to see if I could build more stability in my life, to earn an income with chronic illness. I love research, and I like to work. I just can't work according to set hours, or days, or expectations. And, for the past few years, it has provided stability. My graduate funding is the most money I've ever earned. Other disabled people have had similar ideas about education, about security, about gaining new skills. Throughout my degree, I've been asked, what will you do after the PhD? Will I apply for teaching jobs, do a postdoc, assemble my dissertation into a book, people tell you to plan ahead. Plan for the end of your degree, plan out your publications, plan for the academic job market, because the stability of grad school only lasts as long as your degree. When I answered honestly that anything post-grad would be health permitting, an awkward silence would inevitably ensue. They usually asked a follow-up question. Well, what's your dream scenario? I could answer that. To continue with creative research, ideally from home, on my own timeline, where I would be free to adapt my days to my unreliable body. My entire PhD has run alongside the pandemic, a mass disabling event, which I've deliberately omitted from the series. It's been too hard to go there. My funding also runs out this year. I hope I can finish my dissertation, health permitting. So, what now? What's the prognosis? According to my specialist, my long-term prognosis is, quote, poor. They write, she is highly motivated and doing everything possible to improve her health. I want to prove my doctor wrong, that my future outcome isn't a bad one. I'll keep doing everything possible to improve my health, my life. And the prognosis for other disabled students in academia? What now? Like Kyla's doctor, I'd type out prognosis unknown. Again, let's gather the evidence. People come into disability at many points in life. Disabled people will continue to exist, will continue to seek education, transformation through education, stability through education. People like myself, people like Kyla. But when we come into this space with our disabled bodies, our disabled minds, we find that this education is harder to access, that the space of the university does not want us there, does not allow us to be there, that the academic sphere is, in fact, built in opposition to disability. We may find that we are the ones trying to transform these educational systems just so we can stay. I wish I could give a more hopeful disability forecast. Remember the first 2 years of the pandemic, when deadlines were made fluid, when we could attend class via video conferencing, when we could choose to turn our webcams on or off, when we could attend class from bed, when professors sent us emails, no problem, an extension on your paper is just fine. We're all in this together. It was a time of greater flexibility, of academic standards, participation, attendance. Suddenly, it was accommodations for everyone, no questions asked. Everyone was impacted by health uncertainty. But all the infrastructure erected almost overnight, Zoom, recorded lectures to make up for potential time zone and sleep differences, flexible assignments, accordances for mental health days, accordances for physical exhaustion, accordances for catching COVID itself. As quickly as they were implemented, they were stripped away. And what this communicates to disabled people, access is temporary. Frankly, it's all left a bad taste in my mouth. Why didn't these changes last? Something must be said here. It doesn't have to be this way. The university does not have to be a disabling space. The pandemic proved that things could change. Alison Kafer writes that, quote, "The value of a future that includes disabled people goes unrecognized, while the value of a disability-free future is seen as self-evident." So, what is the value of disability? What is the value of disabled people in our academic institutions, as students, staff, and educators? We have a different way of interpreting the world, of thinking about how it works, and that is valuable. It's as simple as that. I want to leave you with another story, a poem to be exact, about Amy Berkowitz's adventure into grad school, at the beginning of her grad school story. You can read what happened to her in her new book, Gravitas.
Gravitas 2, Fresh Blood. I went to grad school because I couldn't type anymore, literally. The chronic pain started when I remembered the assault, and once it started, I couldn't type anymore. I mean, not all day, not sitting at a desk all day, not waking up early to go sit at a desk all day, making repetitive motions with my hands. I knew I had to find a job where I wasn't sitting and typing all the time. I could be a teacher. I knew that because my college poetry teacher said I could get into an MFA program if I tried. I could get practice teaching there. It seemed like a good idea. I liked poetry, and school was okay. So I applied. 13 programs that funded every student. I wound up at a very prestigious program in a very cold place. I'm telling you it's prestigious not to brag, but to point out that the shit I'm about to describe happens fucking everywhere, and you won't get away from it if you go to a better school. I used to like poetry. Take a minute and appreciate that. I used to read it for fun. I used to find old chapbooks from the 70s at weird vintage stores in East Williamsburg. I found one that was all about buffaloes. Buffaloes, 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 buffaloes. Poetry was a place to play with language. There were no rules. The first time I met a professor for my grad program, he told me why only 2 schools out of 13 accepted me. He told me it was because I wrote my essay about how Richard Brautigan's poems were the poems that made me want to write. Well, what? They were. I liked poems that talked to me like a friend. Poems about life, sex, love, sandwiches, small sadnesses, small hard-to-name feelings. I liked I do this, I do that poems. Frank O'Hara, he was in my statement of purpose too. I still like poems that talk to me like a friend. Novels, too. I like it when writing talks to me like it's my friend. Who doesn't? The professor laughed and said, yeah, that's probably why I only got into 2 schools, disregarding the fact that getting into 2 fully funded programs is a feat. He told me the program needed fresh blood. Did he use the word blood? That's how I remember it. Like it was anemic and it needed me, the blood. I was the blood that would reanimate the program. It felt like a compliment, but also a big responsibility. He seemed to have a plan. Me and him, together, we'd feed me to the vampire of the program. My fresh blood would make it better, make it the kind of program he wanted it to be, which was what? He told me my poems were different than the poems the other students there were writing, but I don't remember if he explained how. Fresh blood. Maybe he liked the Brodigan energy, O'Hara energy, that irreverence, that spark. I don't know. I don't know what he saw in me. Fresh blood. I had the feeling the other students didn't curse in their poems. This professor was visiting New York City where I lived, and he met me at a bar and bought me a drink. I felt honored at the time. By the way, this isn't a story about him behaving inappropriately, groping me, anything like that. You'll meet that professor in a different poem. I couldn't figure out why he wanted me to come to a school that lacked an appreciation for the kind of poetry I wrote. He said it would be good for the school. I suppose he thought it would be good for me, but looking back, I don't see how. Well, the funding, yes, the funding. Remember, I'm disabled now, newly disabled and learning to navigate it, and I can't figure out what to do with my body that will let me earn money. This is my plan. I'll rest for a couple of years, learn a new skill, teaching. The funding is pretty good at $16,000 a year, and I could afford to live alone for the first time in my life. It was a pretty affordable town, and the thrift stores were amazing.